Quantum Conversations, your portal to the inner realms. Access infinite possibilities, infinite mastery, and infinite love. Mind-expanding, heart-opening conversations with some of the greatest spiritual teachers, luminaries, and healers of today's world. Usher in new earth by living in your sacred heart. Quantum Conversations is brought to you by AcousticHealth.com, home of music from the universe, online healing retreats, and this program. Claim your free registration to daily shows at AcousticHealth.com. AcousticHealth.com, your portal to the inner realms. Our program starts shortly. Welcome to another Quantum Conversation, brought to you by AcousticHealth.com. I'm Galey, and I invite you to sit back as we enter the quantum realm, that space of the greater part of you. It is your connection to infinite possibilities, infinite potential, and infinite mastery. Oh, and I love this conversation today because this is one of our most popular topics, crystals. Crystals are, oh my goodness, beings, and they are consciousness. And we are going to chat today with a crystologist from here in Boulder who actually has been working with an Orgone crystal array, which is a beautiful bed that does expansions of consciousness, takes us on journey, and actually has been really wonderful in healing episodes with her clients. Angelia LaRue is with us today to talk all about crystals, crystal circuitry, crystal healing caves, and how we can access this ancient technology in today's quantum times. Angelia, welcome to Quantum Conversations. Thank you for being here.
Hello, Lauren. Thank you for having me. And hello, everybody out there in Quantum Conversations land. It is a great pleasure to hold space and be with you today.
Ah, yes, it feels really wonderful. I can actually feel into your beautiful space where you've got this incredible, unique, one-of-a-kind bed that you made yourself. And actually, this is where deep transmissions, where you're in a trance, come through. And you're actually able to work these transmissions into healing sessions through audio. I find that fascinating, and I love this use of the technology. Let's talk about we're going to talk about your crystal bed. It's really amazing, but I'm just saying we can feel it, and I hope everyone can. But do you want to talk real quick, briefly about that crystal bed?
That was a download after Spirit had trained me in all manner of things concerning crystals. I was taken back to Lemuria and shown how they did surgeries back there, and not just surgeries, but they used this to prolong people's life, and they lived a lot longer than 100 years back then. And so then in essentially a trance-like state, I was shown how to convert that into modern technology. And it is full of crystals. It can't be carried. It's as heavy as a car. Even when it's completely emptied of the crystals, it takes 4 grown men to move it. So that's actually the substructure that I use, that clients lay on. And then circuits, crystal inline solid-state crystals are used to move energy around a person's field in very specific diagrams, depending on what the person needs. So, but the bed itself is constantly, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, putting out a huge energy field, and it's very revitalizing just being in this room. And then when you add the crystals in diagrams at the specific ways they flow energy on top of that, it becomes very powerful. And so to kind of connect that in with how we can then move that over to digital technology is the very first radios that we ever made when we first learned how to move frequency, like station 92.8 over through the air to someone's house. That was built on crystals, the early technology, radio technology was quartz crystal radios. And so to this day, crystalline energy, crystalline frequency at specific frequencies carries really well. And electricity is basically the energy that then moves it, but it just carries right on through the air. It's quite amazing. So this is really just an evolution, if you could say that, of the radio and the television.
Yes. And I love to say that the internet is the age of Aquarius because it literally brings down so many walls that allows many to get creative with it. And so thank you for being creative with it. And thank you for building this incredible bed. I've had the beautiful opportunity to lay on it and receive a crystal array. And we'll talk about that later, but it was really empowering. Let me just say that word empowerment was huge, and that's exactly the card that you drew and everything. But I would like our community and anyone listening, even if it's the replay, but right now we are live with Angelia, and you can breathe in the crystal energy coming from her beautiful office, which it is very calming and rejuvenating. And so it's almost like we're with you. We can hear the fan. If some are listening with headphones, there's a very tiny fan, but that is almost like breathing us with this beautiful energy. So I love that. And it would be interesting for any of those tuning in to tell us what you experience, if you can feel this beautiful, beautiful crystal bed. Well, I love that you were shown how this technology was used in Lemuria. So yes, okay, let's go back to you, and then we'll get caught up on this crystal bed and the work that you use with it. You've got this story that's beautiful, and it happened in this window up to and around and after 2012, and yours was before 2012, and there was a spontaneous awakening that happened for you. Can you share that story?
Yes, I'd love to. It was certainly a very confusing time for me. It happened December 9th, 2011 at 2 o'clock, and I was on a business call when it happened. And I remember that day very clearly. There was an unusual eclipse of the sun. There was some asteroid that came through the same day, and there was one other astrological event, and I don't remember now what that was, but three major things happened. It was almost like the solar system was a clock, and it clicked around into place and said, "Wake up!" And I spontaneously woke up on a business call, and all the psychic abilities came in. Within several hours, the Kundalini flowed, which I thought I just got somehow struck by lightning in my house. I was able to see multidimensionally, and I heard a voice in my head sometimes say things, which I think were meant to help keep me calm, but I was in pretty bad shock, as was the person I was on the business call with. They were, and I actually ended up becoming quantumly entangled with that person for about 9 months. It's what a lot of people call the twin flame event, which I don't know that I call it that. I mean, it was certainly a part of the catalyst for awakening, but that person was certainly not the point of what happened to me. They were just the fire that lit the fireworks that I then had to land on the tarmac of the the 3D reality while being embodied with higher self. And that took nearly 5 years. And it was during those 5 years, I did kind of a very biblical 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness. I manifested a vehicle and drove it into Utah in the desert. And that's where I went through the black night of the soul, the dark night of the soul, nearly committed suicide. And in between all of that, Spirit was dragging me around rock shops, making me hoover my hand over crystals, which I had zero interest in. In fact, that was something that had been on my list of things in life I didn't want to be, was a crystal woo-woo person. So on top of all this amazing, freaky stuff that was happening to me, an inner voice and energy was nudging me to pull off the road into these rock shops and was trying to get me to notice things and wouldn't let me leave the store until I had bought some stuff. And so now I'm hauling a big heavy box of rocks through the desert and whining and complaining and, not understanding what was happening. And I had been, before this happened, a soprano in the church choir, which is the Methodist choir. I served on charity boards. I was having an extremely ordinary life. And there was no paradigm in my consciousness for what had happened. And so in the first 3 months of this, my husband and I put me through all kinds of psychological testing. We went to doctors, did medical exams, and we could find nothing wrong. I was very intelligent, very articulate, very much of sound mind and body. And so we didn't have an explanation for this. And so we literally started Googling the symptoms, and this is where we started discovering, that's where we discovered the twin flame thing, and that's where we discovered the awakening of consciousness. So I spent a lot of time being led to puzzle pieces, putting it together, and then being trained by Spirit. And I spent almost 5 years in solid training with Spirit. So it's been quite a journey, but it did get landed on the tarmac, and now I'm able to be, how do I want to say this? I'm able to function very well in the 3D. I'm not floated out, blissed out all the time anymore, but I still have access to all those realms of consciousness and more.
Yes, okay, beautiful. And really, the expansion of consciousness when working with these crystals in the crystal arrays and the grids that you do are so incredible. And what's amazing is that you're using this for all facets of embodiment. It really is embodiment of higher self. So, okay, then let's talk about crystals, because it's really fascinating. And here your inner voice, you were just being urged to get off the road and put your hand over crystals, but you didn't believe. So before we move on, how did you learn to listen to that inner voice? How did you switch it to say yes? That's really what's required of each of us as we move through these ages, is the ability to hear that voice and to take action on it.
My brain demanded a lot of proof, and so when I ran across something that I didn't understand, I tried everything I could to disprove it, right? So when I felt energy, when I'm hoovering my hands 4 inches above crystals and I'm feeling energy coming from it, it felt like a slight breeze, a little cool breeze. I'm looking around for air conditioners and floor vents and open windows and anything that can explain the breeze. And then I'm holding it beside the crystal, just over the table, and there's no breeze. I hold it over the crystal, and there's a breeze. Back over the table again. And I'm looking for everything, every way I can to disprove it. And eventually, I'm just left with a mystery. There's energy coming from this crystal, which my body perceives as a cool breeze. And then Spirit began to help, to teach me, hold your hand over this other crystal. How does that feel different? And I would notice nuances, the differences. So I started learning the differences in frequencies. I began to learn frequency recognition, right? Mm-hmm. And then that eventually, of course, led to holding the crystals, connecting with them telepathically, which understanding that I thought crystals were rocks. They like gravel, except prettier. had no idea they had sentience. And so the first time crystals invited me inside of them, and I got to see them from as a huge cathedral and wander around inside of it with the consciousness, which was the crystal, I was deeply shocked. And yet something in me knew it was true, some cellular memory from Lemuria, from Atlantis. Mm-hmm. And I think, in terms of finally giving in and accepting, in the desert, I came to understand I had been taught many things, and I had been taught things that weren't actually provable. They were under BS, belief systems, right? Mm-hmm. They weren't provable. And I was being shown a new reality, which was repeatable. And so this point comes where the ego has to really look at which is saner, to believe that which is provable, which you can experience, your own firsthand experience, or to steadfastly refuse your own firsthand experience and go with what you were taught by other people to believe. And so that was one of the pivotal surrender points, is when I willingly chose to believe the experience I was having, to believe that was my firsthand proof of it. Mm. And with that, all belief systems that had been previously associated with that got shut off, because that was stuff I was taught. It wasn't my firsthand experience anymore, and now I have firsthand experience. Mm-hmm.
And that becomes your truth, and you followed it. That's beautiful. And so because of that expansion, you remembered that cellular memory. You recognized that cellular memory of Lemuria, and you were working then. How do you see yourself in Lemuria then? It was definitely related with crystals.
Mm-hmm. There was numerous journeys I took back to Lemuria. It really kind of started as an alkalite when Lemuria, before they moved out of the caves down into the temples in the lowlands, and people used to do pilgrimage up to the mountains to the caves, and I was an alkalite there, and I would meet them at the entry and lead them into the high priestess, where the really large crystals were, and they were programmed to heal mind, body, spirit. There was usually 3 large crystals with a pool in front of them. People would wade to the pool and be directed to stand in front of each of the crystals for a certain period of time by the high priestess. And they connected to mind, body, and spirit. And a person was balanced and healed, and, their consciousness evolved. And that was more the temple caves. They also had the surgery caves and, other ones that did other things as well. And eventually, I become the high priestess, in the caves. And then some lifetimes later, they moved the caves off the mountains down into the cities. And, I continue on as a crystalline priestess there. And then, jumping forward to Atlantis, we again worked with the crystals. In the beginning, decades, first few hundred years of Atlantis, how we used crystals stayed very similar to how they had been used in Lemuria. But mankind made kind of a different choice line during Atlantis and chose to become more technical. There was less and less people who were able to connect to their inner intelligence, their inner guidance. And at the beginning of the physical sciences really kind of formed back in Atlantis, and they developed a lot of technologies. So they started using crystals not as consciously and not with respect to the consciousness, which was the crystal, right? So it's kind of like just, eating food. It doesn't matter if that's, plants or animals, because it was all living. And not giving thanks and appreciation, not saying grace, not acknowledging that something has died for you, right? And that's how they began using crystals, with no consciousness of the crystal's consciousness. And eventually, towards the end of the Atlantean Empire, they end up misusing crystals, and that begins the end of the Atlantean Empire. So there's a long history of crystals. And, even now, as we jump forward into the third, or sometimes people say the fourth epoch of mankind, in Japan, there's this beautiful creation myth, which said that quartz crystals were materialized through the breath of the venerated white dragon. Right? And Australian Aborigines and Native Americans used them to invoke the rain. Greeks portrayed crystals as being eternally frozen heavenly water. And the ancient Chinese said that the heavens were a giant cave roof with stalactites, the stars being light shining off of the stalactites, and that quartz crystals were the broken tips of the stalactites which had fell to earth. So there's, and then carrying that into our religions, quartz crystals, one of the 7 precious substances of Buddhism. They were listed in the Bible over 250 times. And they're mentioned and recorded extensively in Native American traditions, Mesoamerican traditions, African, ancient Egypt, the Celts, the Romans. So this has kind of stayed with us, even if we can't tap to everything we have known as a biped, as a human on this planet. The veneration of crystals has instinctively stayed with us. And nowadays, of course, starting with the quartz radio, we don't have a piece of technology that doesn't have a crystal in it. That's what the crystal chips are. They're in our automobiles, computers. They're in our desktops. They're in our laptops. They're in our cell phones, in our stereo systems. The way that we do energy, electricity, is very ragged and broad spectrum. And so if we run it through these little tiny circuit boards like inside of a camera or a cell phone, we will just fry it out if it weren't for the quartz crystal. The quartz crystal has the property to homogenize and modify and kind of heal energy. And that's why we have all these little tiny circuit boards now, is because of the quartz crystal. So it's kind of, we don't talk about this being the age of the quartz crystal, but we certainly could. Because if we take out the quartz crystal, we're back to the Industrial Revolution.
Right. So would you say, with where we are today using quartz crystals, are there enough people working with crystals in a positive way to balance out where we are, like in Atlantis, where we did not respect the consciousness of the crystal?
I can't put a measurement on that.
Hopefully the answer is yes, we're doing it.
Yeah, I don't know. Most of the crystals that we put in our technology are lab grown. And, if you are familiar with crystals, you can tell the difference between the natural one that's grown in the earth and the lab grown one. And the lab grown ones just are not sentient. It's there, but it's been muted a lot. What is the history? Are we going to do another Atlantis? I'm going to guess it'll be a different mistake that we make this time.
Yes, this movement is too big to be stopped. I think we are on a good timeline. And so this brings us to a question about the Earth's crystals, the crystal grid, right? The one in Arkansas that comes up through the U.S. Can you share any information about that? I mean, that's healing, isn't it?
It is. And, any time you have crystals underneath the surface, I recently had a student take me up the mountain. He's like, you have to come and see what it found. And we go up the mountain, and there was this place on the trail where you suddenly pass through this very strong energy. And he's like, what is this? What's happening right here? And it was like 5 feet wide or something like that. Maybe as much as 8 feet wide. Very distinct. And what I saw when I looked to see the source of this energy field that was crossing this trail in the mountains, there was a vein of rose quartz underneath the trail right there. And so the energy of the rose quartz was coming up through the ground. And whenever you have, so citrine, amethyst, rose quartz, these are all quartz crystals with an extra mineral in there that gives them that color, and it changes the frequency a little bit of the crystal itself. So whenever you're, on top of these quartz crystals, whatever their basic mineral composition is, there is going to be some strong energy associated with that. It's just easier to live in some places. It's easier to be in some places. And a lot of that has to do with earth energies and what's going on. And you've got what people call ley lines and key lines. And you also have synchronic lines. And the synchronic lines do seem to follow the crystalline grids inside, the networks of crystals. And that doesn't necessarily have to be quartz. When you get out into the desert, it becomes mica and selenite. So it will change as we move over the earth, how Mother Earth has formed the different veins.
Yes, okay, fascinating. Well, we've talked about the consciousness of crystals. Can you expand on that for us? Some would ask, what does that mean? But we can work with this consciousness in these ways.
I remember, this isn't my story, but it was a great story somebody once told me. They had not expected rocks to be conscious whatsoever, and they were on a hike with their son up in the Rockies, and there was this big, huge rock, and they went, and they leaned against it, and they felt this energy coming from it, and so they turned around, and they hugged it, and they just sprawled across this big, huge rock with their arms wide, and the crystal told them, I think it was probably granite, told them that it was on a journey to the ocean. And so that immediately evokes this sense of time where their lifespans are so incredibly long, right? Like its whole lifetime it will be on a journey. And imagine a mountain peak finally making it to the ocean. How many generations of humans will have gone? So, and I remember a psychic once told me that my original incarnation here on Earth was as a mountaintop. And so, these different vehicles that we can come into, whether we're coming into, a rock, a crystal, a plant, a tree, an animal, or a human being, are different ways to explore consciousness. And when you connect to the crystalline kingdom, they are masters at fractals. They really understand how energy moves. And energy flows, a gentle undulating flow. But things that flow tend to want to spiral. So we get into Fibonacci now, right? And things that spiral tend to pick up velocity. And so crystals are masters at moving energy, and not only moving it, but through their own matrix, they give the particular qualities to what type of spiraling energy that's going to be. And quartz crystals, not all crystals do this. Some move energy flat in sheets, like the selenite, kyanite, mica kingdom. Energy moves through them as straight lines. But quartz crystal has like a double helix inside, and it spins energy. And so crystals that can spin energy can connect with other crystals and start running circuitry. So now, instead of getting like an individual, like we experience our consciousness before we become awakened as a singularity, as an individual. Crystals experience consciousness like a hive, like a beehive. It's a communal hive consciousness, right? And so they can do things collectively as a hive. And here in the Crystal Sanctum, some of my crystals don't like to be with other crystals because they speak a different language in the way they move energy and at the frequencies that they are, and they're not harmonic with each other. And so, there's something to, notes on a piano are laid out in a very consecutive, increasing harmonic tuning. And crystals tend to like to be that as well. They like harmony. They like to build harmonic structures. And so that's really their level of consciousness, is how to play with energy in harmonic ways.
Yes, and so I love it. There's a little bit of an echo there, but it's okay. We'll get used to it, or it'll calm down. It's the energy of your space, I'm certain. Let's talk about the way that you use this crystal circuitry in healing sessions, because you also use it in digital transmission, and that's ways that we can all access it. We did a session, and it was pretty amazing because it's pretty intuitive. You create a grid, and the crystal circuitry is different for each person. So share a little bit about that whole process.
All right. So the specific crystal circuits that I work with, and I think there's like 120 of them, came from Melody. Melody has a Master of Arts in, I think, mineralogy and a Bachelor's of Science. I'm not sure. But she was pretty well known in the Crystal Kingdom. She wrote a number of big books. They're tomes. They're big, heavy, thick books. She's brought a lot back to us, both from a scientific point of view, but even revitalizing some of the ancient stuff that we did. And what she did is she started building these crystals into circuitry. So let's take a medicine wheel. Most people know what that looks like, a circle with kind of like a cross inside of it, and it may have additional spokes as well. That would be a crystal circuit, and it moved energy. It could move it clockwise and then shooting the energy through, or the circuits can be pointed so that they're all piling energy into a central point. So that gives a little visualization of how a circuit might work. And what she did is she tested these on many, many people and then had them fill out, sheets. This is what I experienced. This is what it activated, and this is what I was aware of. And if every single person who did a certain circuit all had the same or similar experience, that circuit would be kept. But if there was a person who had a very completely different experience than the other 20 people or 30 or 40 that went, or I'm not sure what her control group was, had a very different one, they would put it out, they would throw that one out. So for every circuit that was accepted, there was a vast amount of them that were thrown away. So she was really looking for consistency, circuits that specifically did the same thing over and over and over again. So I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. Melody's the one who actually brought this circuitry forward. And all I've added to it is my own connection with the divine, and this Orgone generator crystal biobed, which I built, which is pretty phenomenal. I've had physicists from a number of different states come here to see it, and electricians and all kinds of other people that are cross interest, and of course gurus and yogis and priests and priestesses and them as well too. So it's of interest to a number of people. Anytime we start looking at something that produces energy, it gets interesting, whether we're studying, consciousness or, whether we're more connected to the contemporary modern world. It's interesting. Did I answer the question, Lauren?
Yes, absolutely. It's really wonderful. And so with these arrays, you really have accelerated it. And this is where the transformation is expansive for people, because you can digitally transmit this energy now, because it's almost like you're taking us on a journey too. And so not only are the crystals there to support the journey, you are leading us across the cosmos or into healing meditation. And those are beautiful. So talk a little bit about your crystal transmissions.
Right. So that energy, it is broadcast directly onto these MP3 files. And there is a meditation or a guided meditation with it. And it's not about the guided meditation. That just gets our minds a way to, something to focus on and get out of the way, so it doesn't interfere with getting busy thinking, oh, I need to jump up and go take care of this or that. It just keeps the mind, kind of quiet and entertained so that the energies can do their work. Now, what a lot of people are reporting is they never even make it to the end of the guided meditation anyway. They're about 22 minutes, but a lot of people check out. Some of them fall asleep, and some just kind of lose consciousness as they get a download that's really been needed by them for quite a while. And I have a number of people who do these every single day. And when they see me, they're always poking at me, and they're like, oh, yeah, you're the lady who says, and then we get in the canoe, and then I don't hear anything else you say until we're getting back in the canoe again. Because they're definitely.
Yeah. And so
but they're very powerful energies. And I've had people report back some pretty phenomenal things. I had a gentleman tell me the other day, and it's in a way he's done before too, but it opened up a new level inside of him. And he said that when he came out of it, he had to download who he was, where he was, what his name was, and that he was a human. Like it took him clear back to the void, to pure consciousness, to that I am consciousness.
Very deep.
And the different arrays do different things. Almost all of them work on us on the mind, the body, and the spirit level. But the energy flows a lot like water. So when water runs across the ground, it's going to fill in the low points before it continues moving on. And that's what it does. So, we can do a crystal array 10 times the same array, and we'll keep getting benefit because it's literally filling in the places and helping us, heal or evolve or restructure where it's needed first. It's kind of 911. It goes where it's needed first.
Yes. Okay. Beautiful. Well, there's some questions here that people have. Do you know much about Herkimer diamonds?
I do. I make Orgone generators, and there's 2 lines of them that we make: the quartz cells and the quartz cells, which have large Herkimer diamonds in them. Because Herkimer diamonds fall on the Mohs hardness scale between a diamond like you would have in your wedding ring and a quartz crystal. The Herkimers are right in between the two of them. So it's harder than the quartz, but not as strong as the ones that are gem quality. Same way, they're made basically in volcanoes, so high heat, carbon, which changes it into a crystalline structure. They emit energy from both ends. They're usually double terminated. And so you get the energy flow from both ends. Anything that you can do with a quartz, you can do with a Herkimer. They do tend to be a lot more powerful. When we talk about crystals, they amplify whatever the resonant energy is. Now, I put them in circuits, so I'm controlling the energy. But if you had a headache and you grabbed a Herkimer diamond, it's going to blow your head up. It's going to hurt so bad because that's the resonant energy in your field. If you're feeling a lot of love and you pick up and hold your Herkimer diamond, it's going to really amplify the love that you're feeling. It's going to make it much more expansive. If you cleansed and purified that Herkimer diamond, dumped out any information, programming that it was holding, then felt the love, you would program it to have love if you held it for like 20 minutes, right? And so now every time you pick up the Herkimer diamond, it's programmed to love, and you feel love from it. So that's one of the fabulous things about crystals, which are clear, that light can penetrate through, are more sentient and more capable, therefore, of holding programming. And so
crystals who are clear, I say who, yes, they're beings. Crystals which are clear are more sentient.
Yes. They learn quicker. They bond quicker. They make connection quicker.
Beautiful. Well, I'm holding a crystal in my hand right now, and I know many are. I know that we just love our crystals. That is this innateness within all of us that we're just drawn to crystals. Okay. Well, all right. So that's the Herkimer. That's beautiful. Martha, I hope that helps because she says that, she's lucky enough to live 10 miles near Herkimer, or she grew up at 10 miles from Herkimer, and she found these Herkimer diamonds. She keeps them on her kitchen window, and she says she's never really sensed anything from them. So is it okay to display them like that? Or what, how would you recommend she use these?
Yeah. I mean, just being on the kitchen window, they're amplifying that energy right around them, right? And so maybe when she does dishes, instead of getting as fatigued as she normally would, she doesn't, because there's extra energy right there, because that's what they do. They grab the photons and spin them up and make more energy. That's what they do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you did, Martha, want to connect with them and stuff, look at the crystals and ask which one would like to connect with you deeper. And you're going to get a feeling from one of them. You're just going to have a sensation, oh, this one. And then go sit in meditation with that and love it. Just love it like you would a child or a pet. Just try to connect. Remember, it doesn't speak your language, right? So you're going to have to go a little extra far. You're going to have to be a little extra open and loving. But visualize, like if you met a child who spoke a different language, the way that you would communicate with that would be through facial features and gestures. Well, the crystal's not going to understand that. But the big thing that you're doing is you're opening your heart. You're making your heart available so that they can understand, this child can understand your intention. Start with that with the crystal. Open your heart up. Be open and available. Don't have preconceived ideas. Just be open. And allow yourself to be led through your heart to connect, not through your thinking mind. Your thinking mind is going to go, oh, it's just a rock, believe me. That's what mine did.
Oh, my goodness.
Don't connect from that way. Connect from your heart and from your feeling body.
Oh, my goodness. Yes, that is a beautiful, really a great tip on how we connect to our crystals. Everything is through the heart. So, gosh,
and you can also, if you're a good meditator, you can close your eyes. If your third eye is up and running, the crystal may talk to you in fractals, and you'll start seeing all kinds of fractal-like energies flying everywhere and shapes and, or some other way. I mean, there's so many ways they can communicate with us. But over time, you'll develop more of a communication form, and eventually that can turn into pure telepathy.
Yes, telepathy. Okay. All right. So, crystals, as we work with crystals, it really expands the consciousness. And I know many, probably have lots of crystals all around the house. Yet what you're reminding us of is that connection with the crystals, to really sit with the crystals and work with them. Do they get frustrated, or are there things that we can do with our whole, I guess a thing would be to make a nice grid to work with all of our crystals and put them to work. Can you say anything about that? Because they do have consciousness. Do they get upset if they just sit around not employed?
Some of them don't want to work. Like Orgone is kind of a preemie and was pulled out of the ground way too soon. It comes from Canada, from an arboreal forest. It's a form of amethyst, but it's a preemie. And Orgone never seems to want to work. It doesn't want to do anything. It's just like a preemie baby. It's like, just hold me, just love me. And it can't really do anything else. It's just a preemie. Some of it you traumatize. So the first thing that you have to remember, first it was taken away. Its cavern, it's where it's seen that it lived in the earth, was busted over by a species it didn't know much about, and it was torn away from its family. It was handled by strangers. It was, packed in boxes. It was shipped. It was unpacked. It was sorted. It was graded. A bunch of beings judged it Was it clear enough? Did it weigh enough? Was it the right shape? Maybe it got chipped and chiseled and formed into new shapes. It's been through a lot. And that's all before it went to the warehouse and went to the store where you got it from. And so that crystal's been through a lot of shock and trauma. And so unless you got it from a place that was conscious enough to cleanse and purify it, and if they are, they'll say they are, it's still carrying a lot of trauma. And so what you want to do is you want to cleanse and purify that. And the easiest way to me to do that, and I have to cleanse them all the time because I cleanse them between every single client, and sometimes that may be 120 crystals I'm having to clean 2 or 3 times a day. And so the easiest way to do this is hold it in your hand. Visualize a hole underneath you like a drain underneath your outstretched hand with a crystal in it going into the earth. Pull in golden light, straight that golden light into that crystal. Tell the crystal to drop out all shock, trauma, stagnant, chaotic energies, all energies that are not it, all foreign energies. And just see that energy streaming down into the earth, being returned to Mother Nature for recycling. And you want to do this about 12 times to really get it clean. With crystals, they take a lot of repetition. They're not going to learn anything while they're in shock and trauma. So you have to get them out of that. And then it's through repetition. Now, if you take a stone that you can't see light through, it's going to be super hard to have a program one of those is possible. But it is a lot more repetition spread out over a lot more days. But quartz, Herkimer diamonds, things like that, they dump energy pretty easily. They'll dump the programming pretty easily, and they'll, and can work with you then. Okay. If you hold your crystal when you're going through something traumatic or difficult, you do want to clean it afterwards because it will pick that up. So psychic energies is part of what you're removing from them as well. So clean them regularly. Anytime you clean it, do a charging on it. Put it in sunlight. Crystals get their life force energy from photons, just as we do from food and water. That's their sunshine and moonlight. And there's a difference in the charge. A moonlight charge, you'll notice the energy in the crystal is very soft and fuzzy. And with the sunlight, it's very bright and active.
Wow, fascinating. All right. Okay, so we're going to be working with our crystals and setting up crystal grids. Now, crystal grids, again, we're going to talk more about your transmissions for everyone, and you do offer personal sessions. But if we wanted to do a personal grid, you've got one, self-love, right? This is the crystal circuitry. And so we're literally creating, oh my goodness, this is almost like scalar energy within the crystal grid. Can you talk more about that?
Right. So, yes, this one is, in particular, is a PDF, but once you print it out, you will now have this particular crystal pattern, and you can build it as well out of your own crystals. You just let them guide you as to where they belong in the circuitry. But you'll now have the pattern for one called the self-love array. And the way it is a PDF, though, you can just print it out and put photographs of yourself or a pet or a loved one or a friend, anybody who needs some more love. It's very supportive when we're going through difficult things. And that person's going to receive that energy 24 hours a day. It's like an IV drip. And that's constantly boosted by this big Orgone generator crystal biobed, which is like a Hadron collider or something. It's just a phenomenal amount of energy that it puts out. And so they're constantly fed by that.
Yes, constantly fed. Wow. Okay, and so these grids, these crystal grids can actually power intentions. They can power our business. We can use them. What are the best crystals to use? Again, you said the quartz because it amplifies, and then you said citrine. So citrine and quartz.
Citrine is your happy, joy stone.
Yes.
It's just a really happy energy it puts out. Amethyst, which a lot of us are very attracted to, is the energy that, when they hold satsang, or puritans, when there's a guru present, and they set a field of energy that people will be gathered inside, that field is usually set somewhere around the same frequency as amethyst, because it's not so high that it's going to drag down awakened people, but the field itself is not so high that unawakened people are going to get blown out in the field and all spacey and not safe anymore. So it's a good middle frequency that wherever you are, in the evolution of consciousness, it's not going to detract. That's how I think of amethyst. But there's a lot of other wonderful properties that it has that makes it really great if you want to do a home grid. Now, for the professional level grids, I only work with quartz crystals because I don't want any other minerals interfering. I'm wanting extremely pure frequencies. But when we build a home grid, you can put in a home grid. You can put quartz and citrine and amethyst, and you're going to have a happy day. It's going to be wonderful and put out some amazing energies.
Yes, awesome, beautiful. Okay, we have a question coming in as well from our YouTube chat. Can you tell us about record keeper crystals?
Yeah, so the record keepers, if you rub your fingers very lightly on that triangle, which makes up the record keeper, and the same thing could be done on Lemurians as well. Lemurians have little barcodes, kind of like, on all 6 sides, and different barcodes when you run your finger along them, or the triangles of the record keepers, produce a certain frequency, and in a deeper state of consciousness, like theta, you can start to get images or imprints, downloads of information from the time period in which that crystal did its growth and forming. So it kind of connects you to a specific place in time when that crystal grew.
Yeah.
You can also use the timekeepers, those triangles, if you scry, which is a form of like gazing into a crystal ball, kind of. If you scry, you can sometimes see almost like video photographs or video feed of the time period in which it is your intention to see.
Ooh, okay, so all of you with Lemurian seed crystals, get busy. Wow. All right. Beautiful ways to work with our crystal kingdom, communicate and connect with the crystal kingdom. I know that I've even slept with Lemurian seed crystals under my pillow, and I am flying and jumping in beautiful ways. So it is really wonderful. All right, and so we're almost here at the end of our show, but I want to have you share more about the way that you have used this technology. You actually use a system. You've got a beautiful process where you yourself lie on your Orgone crystal array bed in a grid for you that actually is a grid for what you're working on or what the topic or the healing session is, and you are in a theta state. You're receiving information from the quantum field, and that is this crystalline transmission. And so you have 12 of these. This is in your special offer. Can you share with us what those are?
Yes. So what happens is when you get it, you just put it on your laptop, your speakers, however you want to, the MP3, so wherever you want to move that to in your house, and you play the one which is going to call to you the most. So there's one of them that can be done every single day. It's gentle enough. The rest are not gentle enough to be done every day. They're very strong, and you want to wait 5 to 9 days between the other ones. But the self-love array is 2 forms. There's one which is the crystalline transmission, which you listen to, and the other form is a PDF that you print out and put your photo or a photo of a pet or a loved one in, and they get the energy. And you can do both at the same time. Most people print that out, put it on their altar, their sacred space, and they just leave it up, and they'll change photographs, or if you don't have a photograph, you can also write a person's name. That works as well. And it helps you to experience a sense of grace and joy and peace like never before. It helps establish the way of heart and personal relationships with yourself and others, and it connects you to an inflow of love frequencies from your higher self and the universe. Another one is Fortuna. Fortuna really helps with positive attraction, with manifesting fortunate situations, items, places, and people. It also cleanses the chakras and opens them so you can be more receptive to all the positivity which is available to you from Source. And it helps you to learn the lessons you need to discover in order to turn problems into fortune without negative impact on your emotional or physical self. This one really helps the soul progress in a very positive way, including in soul agreements with others. Another one is yin-yang balance. And this is all about balance. Balancing our poles, balancing the male-female inside of us. It helps us to embrace opposites, to balance these things. The creative and the receptive, the stable and the volatile. We can use these frequencies to balance ourselves, to create a life from a new balanced perspective. So this is all about bringing wholeness and balance and transcending disparities in our life. Another one is the Anka Venus Triumph. This is a very powerful one. Fun one to do with your lover. It supports loving relationships. It can also be used to bring remarkable love and beautiful energies into your life. It cleanses the heart and the solar plexus chakra and assists us to attract people, creative experiences, or objects that help us with our soul growth. And please understand, as I give you a very brief description of these, each of these has a description which is 1 to 3 pages long of what it does. These all work on the body as well, different organs, different energy systems, heart, spine, liver, kidney, but it just was too much information to put that all out there. Another one's called Transformation. This is a very powerful array. It eradicates obstacles, encourages you to live courageously, fulfilling your soul's mission. It helps you to connect to your higher self in a calm and balanced way. Once the doubts are calmed, you find that your courage to move forward is activated. And it also helps you to integrate past life lessons if they happen to be affecting your progress in this particular incarnation. Cooperation, beautiful one. It instills the adaptability to changing circumstances, so you can adapt to current life changes. It helps us to pause and become the witness with grace and ease. It also supports and opens our chakras, helping us to act and move forward. And it gives a very strong sense of well-being. It can actually awaken automatic writing capabilities for those who are involved in the construction and the use of the Egyptian pyramids. All side benefits there. There's the Sun Medicine Circle. This brings in qualities of strength, wisdom, knowledge, illumination, spiritual growth, courage, and self-expression. It helps with our capacity to experience and nurture our own self-worth. It also facilitates us being reliant, independent, and self-sufficient. Phallus, this is a very strong one. Phallus was the god of wisdom, business, and the arts. She was a powerful mediator in times of conflict. And this one helps bring a win-win resolution to conflicts. It helps us to see the big picture of business or in personal use. Helps balance the yin-yang qualities of our emotions and minds while helping us access our divine knowing for guidance in the next step. It helps create original solutions for unificially beneficial outcomes. Vesta is another one. It's a beautiful one. Vesta was the goddess of the hearth and life-giving hearth fire. This activation has a lot of energies to stimulate frequencies that give us perseverance, stamina, and fortitude. And it helps us live according to the doctrine of love for ourselves and others, while being focused in conscious action throughout our day. Potentate's another one. It's one of the strongest ones. It helps connect and anchor that connection with the divine truth into us. It contains a variety of ecstatic transfusions of divine essence experience. It encourages the pursuit of deepest connection to one's inner being and true union with the divine. Sometimes an experience with the ancient masters may occur that transcends ordinary human knowledge when doing this array. It is a journey from the mundane to the sacred. A very practical one is one called Charm and Ease. It enhances one's charm, gracefulness, popularity, charisma, and lightness of spirit. Helps with creative problem solving and meeting tight work deadlines. It also helps in increasing cash flow and business opportunities. Another benefit of this is wisdom which is imparted, which opens the intuitive capabilities and higher regard from our peers. And the last one is Uranus. This has to do with flow. Helps us experience moving forward in perfect timing, stimulates spontaneity, and encourages discovery. So this is all about getting unstuck and moving forward. In decision making, it helps us remain detached as an observer so we can discern the best decision for ourselves and others. It's a wonderful transmission to use during physical travel. It encourages us to experience new things while being understanding of others. So that's a very brief. All of these arrays do a lot more than that, and I leave that up to, it's like a gift. A package you unwrap, and there's all this wonderful surprise in it. And so I leave that to those fortunate people who will come into these to discover what else each of these 12 transmissions does.
Yes. Powerful, powerful tools, quantum tools actually, that allow us to expand in miraculous ways. It really does assist in the embodiment of consciousness.
And they work not only on our mind, body, spirit, and auric field, but on our quantum body. And there's some of them that they're not in this package, but that are available, that clean the pathways of energy for the higher self to embody into the body, and also clean the pathways clear up through the oversoul, through all the aspects of self, straight back to source. So they are very quantum in nature. They're not limited to the physical body or the auric field.
Yes, and the consciousness of the crystal energy actually through those digital transmissions works with our intention, and it knows exactly where to go for what we need. That's beautiful. Okay.
And after working with them, doing some of the crystal arrays, you'll start having a stronger connection to crystals. You'll start noticing more, receiving more energy from them, just random crystals. You'll start noticing your relationship is changing with them.
Yes, our eyes will be glued on crystals. They'll just be this beautiful beacon in our sight. Yeah, all right, so watch your pocketbook too, because we might want more and more of them. But we definitely have these beautiful tools that you offer in a beautiful crystal technology. It's a new crystal technology that you're using to help people. How long are each of these about? They're quite a journey, right?
They are, but they're deeper than they are long. They average around 22 minutes, but you're not going to quite believe that was only 22 minutes. Really
relaxing and quantum tools.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear. I love hearing people's stories about what happened, and there's been spontaneous healings. the embodying of a higher self, or first contact with a higher self, or the people who've met their angels and guides. And some of these arrays, like it is a guided meditation, there is one that guides you to meet your guides, so you may get to meet some of them. There's one of them where you have a banquet with ascended masters and receive the gift of the banquet. And I believe there's one in which you get to journey to the Temple of Souls out on Saturn. So I didn't want to leave that out. Clients who come in person often get to have that journey. So I believe we put that on one of these.
Yes,
so
okay.
Some surprises in this package as well.
And the personal sessions are indeed extraordinary and exquisite, and you do those remotely. So how long is the Skype session? What goes on there? Or Zoom? You do it in any way that people can connect?
Yeah. So my preference is Zoom, but we can certainly do Skype as well. We haven't really talked about what all I do. It can certainly be a healing session, and there's a number of different ways I can do that. I'm a Reiki master, I'm a Crystologist, and I have some extra things that some friends from another star system have given me as well. It can be a psychic reading. I teach mystery school traditions, so if there is a particular ability that you're starting to awaken, or you're wanting to take it to the next level, you can spend your hour doing a psychic development class with me. And
cool.
That'll be a lot of hands-on activity as well, not just talk. We'll actually do something. Or you could use it in spiritual counseling or spiritual guidance. So it's your hour. How would you like to spend it? Or I can connect up with your higher self, your angels and guides, and be the cell phone for a conversation that you have with them. And you can ask whatever questions you want to them, and I'll move those answers back to you.
Beautiful. Oh, thank you for that. Okay, so if those are interested in working deeper and connecting with the crystals in this beautiful technology, taking this deep journey of expansiveness, then that special offer is available for you. Check out acoustichealth.com/special offers/Angelia. Wonderful. Well, Angelia, thank you so much.
Or is it Angie?
I think you like Angie or Angelia.
Yeah, I usually go by Angie, but it is Angela, which is spelled Angelia. But yeah.
Yes, Angelia. It's so angelic. So yes, we have it as Angelia. High vibe. Beautiful. Okay, well, there's more to talk about with you, and you've got some beautiful trainings and teachings, and we'll bring you back to Quantum Conversations to delve into that. But I want to thank you for our time together today and this beautiful time with the crystals. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Any comments as we close our circle?
It was a joy and an honor, and I felt some of you out there listening, and there are some very lovely beings that are listening to your show, Lauren, some just big-hearted, beautiful-hearted people. So thank you all for the work that you do to make yourself so bright that I can perceive you. Thank you.
Yay. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you, Angie. What a beautiful show. Thanks so much for being here. And thanks to you, too, with your big, beautiful hearts for being here with us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Until next time, we'll see you again. Thank you for listening, and thank you for dancing with us in our collective intentions as they go across the universe to the cosmic heart. I'd like to thank my wonderful team at acoustichealth.com, Heidi, Tony, Tom, Pam, Suzanne, and Garner, who assist with the production of Quantum Conversations, online healing retreats, and more. And thank you, too, for listening. If you've enjoyed this program, please share it with your friends and loved ones. And we thank you for shining your magnificent light and adding it to the world. This is when we love ourselves like no one else can. We leave you now with music from the universe. Music literally created by the universe, as musical notes were assigned to mathematical equations. The result is this beautiful music, available at acoustichealth.com. Namaste.